Hey everybody, it's Virginia from 13 Design, and today we're going to be doing a little craft on our canvases that are from our canvas kits, but this one got a little boo-boo, so I'm going to use it for my craft instead of sticking it in a kit. But I am first going to have to repair this because that's not going to work. So I'm going to point the camera down and you guys can see what I'm doing, and then we'll get started on the craft. What we're going to be using is our rose paper, and here's just the two. These are from my brand new line, my Makers series, and these allow you to add in your own coloring. So you get to choose what colors you want. So I went ahead and did all the shading for you, and all we're going to do is go in with some really watered down paint and add a little bit of color. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. But first we need to fix our canvas. So let's get started. Okay, so now that we have the camera pointed down, let's take a look at what we need to repair with this canvas. This is actually a canvas that got damaged and was intended for one of my kits. And of course, I'm not going to waste it, so I'm going to go ahead and fix it. You can use tape to tape the backside, and I use either packing tape or duct tape or painter's tape, but this time I'm going to use some packaging tape, and it's a pretty simple fix. Anytime we can keep anything out of the landfill, we certainly want to do that. So first we're going to take a piece of our tape and tape it over the back side here, making certain to really stick it on, rub it really well so that it really hooks onto the canvas and keeps the slash or hole taped down. And then we're just going to make sure that it's nice and smooth here on the front, every little bit that should be attached to the adhesive. And then we're going to use some acrylic paint, white acrylic paint, because we want to make sure that we're sealing it up real nice. But there are some little pieces here sticking out, so I'm going to go ahead and snip those off first. Get it nice and flat so that when we do decoupage over it, it will be a nice flat surface. So again, we're going to use white acrylic paint, and we're going to go ahead and use that and the matte finish glue. We're just going to squeeze it right onto the canvas here, and I'm just going to mix them right on the canvas instead of putting them in a paint palette. But we're going to use a nice flat brush so that it smooths it over where the hole or slash was, and just kind of go back and forth. We're mixing the paint and the glue right on the canvas, and this will make it a nice smooth surface. I do know that I will be decoupaging over top so that it won't matter. Okay, let's dry this real quick. Okay, so now let's just take a look here. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. You can see the repair here, and I think this will work really well. We're just going to go ahead and decoupage over it so it doesn't matter that there's a bit of a repair mark here. So not a big deal, and we successfully saved this canvas. So I'm pretty happy about that. Okay, so before we start on the background on our canvas, we're going to go ahead and grab our paper. So let's go ahead. Check out our paper here. This is the rose paper. It's one of the newest designs in our Makers series, and these are paintable designs so that you get to kind of choose whatever colors you'd like. And they're super easy to paint, or you could color with some colored pencil, but I'm going to go ahead and paint it today. I'm going to show you how to do that, but we're going to easily be able to customize this. So we're going to use some acrylic paints and also some chalk paints. I tend to mix these to get the desired look that I want. And the key here is to water down the paints a lot. I'm not kidding, a lot. But before we get started painting the papers, I definitely want to do the background colors on my canvas. And that way they'll have a chance to dry while I'm working on painting my paper. So I'm just going to use a mixture of chalk paints and acrylics and paint the background. Okay, so now let's bring our rose paper back out. What I want to do here is I want to create a soft edge around the design because I want that look. I really like the way that looks. So we're going to use a water pen to get that look. The chamber is filled with water. It comes out the brush tip. We're going to use it to paint on our paper, and this will create a controlled tear. So let me just show you how this works. We're going to paint onto the paper, and it essentially makes a water line. And wherever there's a water line, we're going to tear, and that prevents us from having a real zigzaggy type tear, and it creates that nice soft edge that I want for this paper, which will look really nice when we put it down on our canvas. Don't be afraid if you get too much water. It is paper. It will dry. You can see the line here, and that's what we're going to follow with our controlled tear. So just carefully tearing around the edge. If it doesn't turn out exactly how you want, you can always go back in and add a little bit more water, tear a little bit more. But I really like this random / controlled look, right? You can see it here. It's a nice soft edge, and it's a very forgiving look. Okay, so here's our design. This next step is key. If you have a colored background, we're going to use white acrylic paint to paint the backside of our paper. Now that the backside is painted, we can ensure that no background will show. To adhere our paper to the surface, we will add some glue, and we're using a matte finish glue, so we're going to paint our whole surface with the matte finish glue. Okay, our whole surface is painted, so while it is still wet, we want to work quickly and get our paper. In order to adhere this paper, it's a little bit of a larger design. We're going to first spray it with some water. We're just going to spritz it and get it nice and wet. What this does is when we stick it down onto the glued surface, it will really adhere. And then when we hit it with the hairdryer or the heat gun, it's going to shrink back and really adhere to our surface. So we're going to carefully place it down where we want it on the canvas. We do have a little bit of time to work. You want to work quickly, but you can reposition if needed. We're going to use our finger to go around the whole paper gently and make sure that there are no lumps, bumps, or wrinkles. Okay, once the paper is dry, it's nice and flat. Now let's talk background. I wasn't happy with the background I had, so I'm going to use a high-tech tool called a paper towel, and I'm going to add a nice finish to the background. I'm going to add some taupe, maybe grayish color, and I'm going to just use my wadded up paper towel, and I'm going to go around the whole background here, allowing some of the teal blue to still show through. It kind of gives it a granite type look, which I really am liking, and I felt that the blue was taking away from our design, so I kind of wanted to mute that down. So I'm going to use, like I said, some of the grayish acrylic paint, as well as adding in some darker browns around the edges to really give it some depth and create some interest. Once I'm done, you'll see this is a very messy process. I'm a messy artist. If you're a messy artist, go ahead and clean your hands. You want to do that before you start picking up your canvas and getting your fingerprints everywhere. Yes, I do speak from experience. All right, so next we're going to work on our paintable paper. So these new designs are awesome. It really gives you the chance to really customize your projects by adding whatever colors that you'd like. So again, we're using super watered down acrylic paints, and you really, really want to water them down because putting several light layers to get the color you want is a heck of a lot easier than getting it too dark right off the bat and then not being able to lift that color. I've drawn these designs with the shading already, so if you use a nice thin paint, the shading will show through and you won't have to do a whole lot yourself. You can just put a thin layer of your color over top, and it allows that to shine through. I, of course, will be adding some shading and highlighting myself in addition to, but you certainly can just use the super watered down acrylic or chalk paints. You can use chalk paints as well, but just make sure it's nice and thin. Get the first layer down, your nice thin tone of color, and then you can go back in and add more thin layers to really get the color that you desire. It's basically like a coloring book or a painting book from when you were a kid. You might have flashbacks. You're just going to stay within the lines and paint it on nice and thin. Thin is the key word. Can you tell? Thin, 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 right? So let's get nice thin coat and then add back in the desired effect, the desired color that we're looking for. And it's okay to mix some colors together as well, but I'm just going to do this nice thin layer of this pretty pink to get the base layer that I want on my paper here. And I'm just so excited about this new Makers Series line. I have 3 papers right now. This rose design comes in 2 different directions depending on what you need for your project. You can do one in each direction, especially if you're doing like cabinet doors or a set of canvases. So like I said, now that I have my base layer, I can go back in. I can add more layers of the color if I want it a little bit more vibrant. I can add other colors to add some shading. I think I'm going to use a little bit of brown here to give it a little bit of a warmer feel because my shading on the actual paper is of a gray. And I think because I'm using this pinkish peach color, I'd like it to have a little bit of a warmer feel. So I'm going to just go in with a watered down brown, again watering down, thin, thin, thin. I can go in and add anywhere I want to put a shading effect. So I'm just going to kind of go around and do that. Just follow the existing shading. Okay, so this particular design has some other little flowers and cute little florals to it. So I'm going to really water down some yellow and with just a touch of orange to warm it up. Again, I'm going for more of a warm feel on this particular design. So again, water down, thin, thin, thin. And I'm just going to add just a little bit of color. I want my rose to be the star of the show, right? But I just want a little bit of these other colors to just kind of frame it out nicely. So that's why I'm picking colors that will really complement it with the warmer tones. This is going to look great. Okay, so now we're going to water down some greens. I'm going to use a couple different shades of green to go in and get our leaves colored in. It's important not just to use one color, because that's going to be a very flat looking painting, right? So I'm going to go in first with some of the darker shades, again, super watered down, super thin layers. And then I'm going to go back in with some lighter shades, maybe more of a yellowish lime green, just to give it a little bit more depth. It's important to use different shades to give it that depth. Otherwise, it'll be a very flat painting. So after taking a look at where I am on my painting, I'm going to go back in now and hit it with some highlights, some shadows, some additional colors, like I said, for depth. And that'll make it look beautiful. Okay, so let's have a look at where we're at right now. I'm constantly looking, adding to, changing it up a little bit. So you're constantly going to want to be looking at it, look at it close up, look at it far away. So now we're going to add our ThermoWeb adhesive. This is a really cool product. It's easy to add in. I want to add a little splash of metallic with the hoops or the wreath portion of the design, and I think that's really going to complement this nicely. So this adhesive, super easy to use. You just squeeze it on and it follows along. You can go back in with a brush to make your lines a little bit wider if you're filling in a larger area, but I'm not. What I'm doing is the perfect width for this controlled tip. So I'm going to go around and follow this line the whole way around. Anywhere I want the metallic look, I'm going to put some of this adhesive. Their products are really, really great. I really am liking them. So you're going to want to give them a try for sure. Okay, so now I've got the whole wreath or the hoop lined in the adhesive. You can see it, a little bit of glimmer there from the adhesive. And we're going to let it dry for an hour, and then we're going to use the transfer foils. Of course, again, I'm going for a warmer look with this, so I'm going to use gold. There are several choices in this pack. I'm just going to go with the flat gold, plain gold, not flat, shiny. And wherever I want it, I'm going to stick it onto the adhesive and then just rub it. You can rub it with your finger gently. Again, you're on a canvas. You don't want to push too hard, but you're going to rub it with your finger and it will adhere to wherever you have the adhesive. So this is a really cool product. If you're using more than one foil, you're probably going to want to do one color and then put your adhesive down for the second color and let that dry and then go back in with that, because I think it'd be really hard to try to only get a color on one little area. So you're going to carefully peel this back once you've pressed it down, and you will very quickly see results. For those of you who like immediate results, here it is. Okay, so our hoop is done, and I've actually gone back in with the control tip of the adhesive, and I've written out the words "Stop and Smell the Roses," right? Because it's a rose paper. The Rose is the name of the paper. So anywhere that I have put the adhesive, I'm going to put the gold. And first, though, I've let it dry overnight. It's not quite as sticky as I want, so a little tip here is to hit it with some heat, and it will be plenty sticky for you to go ahead and put your foils down. So if you have that problem, if you've let it dry a little too long and the foils aren't adhering to it quite as nicely as you would like, you can go back in, hit it with the heat. It will make it super sticky again, and you're able to put your foils down. Again, just rubbing gently with your finger. If you're on a canvas, do not press. Okay, so we've gotten all the foils down. You can see them on the wording. You can see them on the wreath. It's hard to show it in video, but in person, it looks really, really cool. You can see here as I kind of tilt it back and forth. So again, we used the ThermoWeb products. You can find them at www.thermoweb.com. You're definitely going to want to give them a try because they really give some interest to any product. And to find our decoupage papers like the rose, you're going to visit our website, www.13designart.com. And thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see what you create. Happy creating!